Hello, everybody, and welcome to. I've just hit that the outside insider as I pound my mic filter, mainly out of passion for the Eagles. A week 1 win over the Packers. The Cowboys barely survived the Browns. The Washington Commanders and the New York Giants are in the mud. It was a dream start to the NFL season. There were plenty of heroics and rises and falls all across the board, but the only one we really care about is that the Eagles are 1-0. It wasn't pretty, but it got done. And I think that's the main feeling coming out of this game. Like, I came into the game full of expectations that the Eagles were going to wipe the floor with Green Bay, that while they are an NFC championship contender, it didn't really matter, that the Eagles were one step ahead in terms of roster construction, that they were one step better along in their progression. They were a championship team now. The Packers maybe a year, 2 years away. They had the edge at nearly every positional group, and they still found a way to make it incredibly, incredibly difficult. And that sentiment was kind of where we were at for the bulk of the 2023 season before the collapse. Like, for those of you that were riding with this show all of last year, I can't count how many shows I did where it would be week 2, week 3, and they'd won the game and it would look comfortable, but you'd come away from it and there'd be a little cold chill down the back of your neck. There'd be something not quite right sitting in the back of your mind, wondering that if this doesn't get fixed, if something doesn't change, there could be an implosion with the strength of the schedule and the slate they had in front of them. Luckily, that challenge isn't as good this year, and luckily, there's reason to believe that this year will be different. Not that this is a time for excuses, but when you look at the fact this team didn't play preseason snaps as a group of starters, when you look at the fact that you've got new coaching staffs on both sides of the ball, and now you've got an extended bye week before a Monday night game against Kirk Cousins, who is usually atrocious in prime time. And on top of that, the Falcons were not bad, but disappointing, shall we say, in week 1. That they have got time to pick it up. So we're going to get to some of your comments. I see you guys lighting it up in there. Kevin Brown, what's up? I see you, man. E-Money Bentley with the first comment of the day. Go Birds. J Brown 1-0. That this one felt closer to 2022 than 2023, says Win Sports. I like that. I think that's fair. The difference in 2022, there was, I think, that Jalen Hurts looked far more along in his development. The one concern I had coming out of this game was Jalen Hurts, and that's not great. Like, if we were to look at the man who changed the tide of battle in that game 3 times, it's Saquon Barkley, as Chris Babos says there. Incredible. No preseason snaps was evident around the league. But yeah, Saquon, had it not been for Saquon Barkley, I wonder how different that game would have been. If they had Kenny Gainwell as their lead back, maybe someone else. I've also just realized my internet's buggy again, so I'm going to fix that in 2 seconds. There we go. Right, we're back. My boy, keep pushing. I missed it. I'm still here, man. Like I said, I stream 3 times a week, 6 p.m. Eastern till 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So if you want to hang out and talk birds, that's where I am. It's a lot easier for me to condense it and have these conversations rather than cut up a 4-hour video and then on top of running the website and the rest of it. So yeah, this is where you can find me Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. If I've got a banner to advertise, I'll put it up. I think I changed it. But yeah, Birdbrain says he felt better about this one. It felt like more player execution issues more than fundamental coaching scheme problems. That's really important. Right, give me a sec. If I can load this website, I want to show you something, because before we get into Jalen Hurts, before we get into anything else about this game and stuff that coulda, woulda, shoulda, and the changes and stuff, I do want to show you something, because this is absolutely remarkable to me. So I'm going to try and share my screen now. Again, I'm a boomer, so it might take a little bit of time. But so this is next gen stats. The one player I want to look at first is Devontae Smith. Okay, where is he to? There he is. You can find Torrey Smith on here. That's crazy. Look, just look at the state of this. Okay, this is 2024 week 1. Look at the usage. Slot, out of the backfield on motion, over the middle. Like, he's got deep shots, he's got curls. These plays here I'm hoping my curse is big enough for you to see. Well, the most impressive, these little kind of curls and comebacks where he would then make a ton of yards after the catch. He had 54 yards after the catch in total. That was no mistake. That was by design to get him into situations where he can deliver. If you compare that to this is week 16, 2023. This is one screenshot below. Okay. Look at the difference in the way he's used. Now, I mean, in fairness, the wildcard weekend is used different, but there's not a lot of variety in the routes run. Here, you've got a little bit of everything. There is a mess. You've got 4 comebacks on one side there. I don't know what they're doing. And then outs on the other. It's awful. Absolutely awful. There's just no variety if you go back through 2023. If you go to AJ Brown and we look at the same thing, this is a real testament to Kellen Moore. So 2024, look at the difference. Short route, deep routes for the touchdown there. You've got all sorts of, again, little flick routes where they're trying to gain those yards after the catch. It's crazy. The difference, like, he's strictly there. Like, there is a lot more versatility with this offense, I think, in trying to get these receivers in positions to make plays, which is all you could ever ask for. Like, the main thing coming out of last season was they need more creativity on offense. They need more. And when you've got that much motion, you've got players constantly moving around the backfield, it was such a refreshing change to see. The fact that the coaching staff did change something, that there was motion, that you've got running backs going back and forth, that you've got receivers going back and forth, you've got Devontae Smith lined up in the slot and not just stuck outside. You've got AJ Brown moving into the slot. There was a design to try and get winnable matchups, to try and get these players more than anything else into open space and trust the ability they have with the ball in their hands. And what you saw was Devontae Smith become this absolutely clutch machine, going 7 of 8 passes, big time reception after big time reception. It was absolutely massive. And Saquon was a huge part of that. So I know I've just bridged a bit, but before I got into, I guess, critiquing and looking at being constructive, I wanted to first give Kellen Moore his flowers, because that offense, as much as the execution wasn't there, the ideas were. And the ideas to get these players in space were. And that was the biggest thing for me. Like, production will come when you've got players that talented and you can get them into space. And it did. And if that's the result, when Jalen Hurts is on an off day, when Jalen Hurts isn't at his best, you're going to be golden. You know, the ceiling is very, very high on this team if they can get Hurts far into a clip where he was in 2022. These players are too good. And where you've got a coach that understands leverage and understands how to give little tips of the hat to Jalen Hurts of whether it's man or zone, what linebackers to might just make his life easier, give him easier reads. The game then becomes easier. It opens up. And you saw that for Saquon Barkley as well. So a huge shout there to Kellen Moore for drastically changing the way that 2 of the best receivers in the world were used, because they needed it, they got it, and it was a huge factor in that game, without a shadow of a doubt. So Jay Brown there says, just like they used Smitty in college. Absolutely love that. Birdbrain says, one of my favorite plays, they motioned Shipley, ran AG out on a post, and Smitty was wide open. And that's the thing. It's just levels concepts. Like, one of the biggest things I found with the Eagles last year was that they would run like 3 receivers and they would all go deep, or 2 receivers would go out routes and the other one would go straight down the middle, but they would all break at 15 yards in, and you've got no intermediate option. If you have a running back like Shipley, like Barkley, that can come out and draw a safety, draw a linebacker, you've got a safety end that's drawn to AJ Brown, and you can get Devontae Smith in an ISO matchup, he's gone. There's no one that's going to catch him. That's the thing. It's scheming these guys open. You know you've got all the ingredients to make a cake. You need a chef that can do it properly. And they might finally have it. So they might not have the finished product yet. The cake is still in the oven. But the ingredients are being cooked properly. They're being looked after properly. And that is a huge, huge testament to Kellen Moore. And we'll go back to, I guess, Jalen Hurts. I know we mentioned RPOs there from Win. I was going to touch on that separately. I want to quickly read this one as well from Tyrell. Again, I'm sorry I forget your name wrong. This is from the guy that says Ineas Smith, and I can't say Zach Bourne properly, so I promise it's not personal. We're just too good an experience for you making these boneheaded mistakes. Completely agree. It's coming. There will be a scathing Liam rant, I promise. But this is the main thing. that Saquon Barkley was incredible. I said on Twitter, I can't remember a time where I'd been that excited about an Eagles running back, where an Eagles running back was that dominant. And everyone would point to, oh, but LaShawn McCoy. And there's the police again, right on time. Saquon Barkley is a different cat. It's not the same. LaShawn McCoy was one of the shiftiest, most elusive, most slippery running backs of all time. Saquon Barkley is if LaShawn McCoy and LeGarrette Blount had some sort of weird lab-built love child and just decimated the NFL. We knew Saquon would be good. Like we said, he had over 900 yards. He had over 900 yards last year behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. You stick him behind Philadelphia's, who weren't firing at their best clip. That was not the pinnacle of that offensive line. They're embedding a new center and a new right guard and a new scheme. And the way he moves between tackles, the way he can explode out of the hole, the way he can explode into the hole, it's you just haven't seen it. Like, I thought we kind of peaked with DeAndre Swift in terms of efficiency for a running back in Philadelphia. But when you've got someone that can just turn a dead play into 20 yards, that will lower his pad levels into a defender and truck him, but at the same time has the ability to cut on a dime, to zip out of a break. Like, you don't have that rare combination with many backs in this league. And it's scintillating to watch. I can't remember an Eagles player, honestly. And I've followed the team since about 2008, I think. So 2008 was my first season, 2009, around like that dream team era. And LaShawn McCoy had my heart at a young age because I was a kid and he was explosive and doing all these crazy jukes, and it's a different back. But to look at someone in terms of raw talent and raw ability and go, that guy's something else. Thank God he plays for me. Thank God he's on my team and not whoever else, not the Giants. Thank God he didn't go to Dallas and replace Tony Pollard, you know? It's so easy. Like, Devontae Smith did it for me to a point, I think. But Smitty has always been that way of like, he just flashes it time and time again. But the instant impact that Barkley made, especially after that first snap, the first snap he had where he tripped over in the backfield because the grass was all wet, you're looking at yourselves like, oh no, not now. Just not this again. Come on, you are Saquon Barkley. This is it now. This is $22 million. Like, let's get this locked in. And to rebound from that with a 3-touchdown performance where he just ripped through everything like a hot knife through butter and looked like he had fun doing it. That was as good as an Eagles debut, I think, that I can ever remember. It was magical. Just watching him at work. I just wanted to see them run the ball constantly. Like, at that point, all of a sudden, A.J. Brown and Smitty became afterthoughts because you just want to see Saquon roll. You want to see what Saquon Barkley can do. Can he break off another big run? Is he going to truck someone else? How many more first downs is he going to get? It was amazing, man. Like, it was so good to watch. And it was just a real moment of, wow. Like, Howie Roseman has pulled that off. Saquon Barkley is an Eagle. That guy who, had he not been in New York for the first few years of his career, might be regarded already as the best running back in the league. Is there a chance that status changes into his first year in Philadelphia? Potentially. Obviously, you've got Christian McCaffrey to contend with. He's coming off a training camp injury, though, so we don't know what his usage is going to be like early on. But McCaffrey is a class of his own in what he does. As a pure running back, I don't know if many are better than Saquon Barkley right now. Like, there just aren't that many. Bijan Robinson, you could argue, would be up there. A lot of the guys that would have a few years ago, someone like a Dalvin Cook, an Aaron Jones, you can make the case they're past their prime. Certainly Dalvin Cook, at least. But just, it's remarkable. It's so remarkable. It was just like, it was watching poetry. Everything just felt like there was a warm fuzz inside you, just watching Saquon Barkley with the ball in his hands. And I don't think that will ever... That's one of the... It's a really weird feeling. I think that's one of the few memories I'm going to have with me as an Eagles fan for a long time of, wow, Saquon Barkley is on this team. That running back is on this team. And that's what should have happened with DeMarco Murray. And that didn't for a million reasons. But alas, it's brilliant. It's such a blessing is the only word for it, I think, you know? And I hope that every Eagles fan felt the same, because I was just bedazzled by what I was seeing from Saquon Barkley. Exploding to that. That didn't take long. I try and have serious conversations sometimes. I promise I do. Alex says he's on the same level as Adrian Peterson. I'd agree with that, I think. Like, in terms of raw talent, 100%. Hale will trade anyone except for QB1. Thank God he didn't trade for Deshaun or Russell Wilson. Yeah, that was a curveball, which is great for me because, I'm in a fantasy league with Jordan Love as my QB1 and Deshaun Watson as my QB2. So I had a great weekend. Let me tell you that for free. My outlook for the rest of this season is tremendous. I can't wait to get underway. I am to eye up the likes of Sam Darnold for my fantasy quarterback, and that is not where I want to be going into this season. But if you're new to this stream, guys, it'll be amazing if you could leave a like if you're enjoying it. Join in the chatter. I know we've got a few of you watching on Twitter. We've got 20 of you here on YouTube. Say hello, drop your comments, drop your thoughts, drop your emotions. This is like our post-game therapy here on YouTube. So, yeah, it'd be amazing if you can get involved. We'd love to have you as part of our community. There's one other player. Oh, there's two other players that I want to talk about. One of them is going to come as a surprise to no one. And I'm just going to... someone in the comments can do it for me. So I'm just going to sit here with my arms up like this, knowing that I told you so the day they signed him. And I did a live stream and we looked at his highlights and I said, he's going to be a baller. And I'm going to sit here and so someone tell me, go read my mind. Who am I talking about? Who is it? The chat has spoken. The chat has spoken. Zach Bourne. If you're watching this stream, you heard it here first. The guy was menacing. That was everything I could have ever dreamed that debut to be. I think he was, saying MVP is a bit of a stretch, given that Saquon had 3 touchdowns. But in terms of impact and in terms of the amount of big-time plays he made to stop that Packers offense rolling. Like, it's easy to look at Saquon's touchdown and say he was MVP of the game because he did all the scoring. But if we're honest, look at the positions that Eagles defense found themselves in early on. They should have been down 14-0 within 2 drives. They should have been down 14-0 because you had a dodgy turnover, you had another dodgy turnover, and the Packers should have ran rampant at that point, and they didn't. And one of the big reasons why was the man who led that team in tackles, flew around that defense like a wasp on cocaine, unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable. And when we looked at the highlights from his Saints year, and there weren't many because he only played in like 9 snaps, it felt like, on defense last year. You just saw someone that, as we said at the time, plays within himself, does not take overly aggressive tackling angles, but because of that, has to have this incredible instinct. He knows he's not the most athletic player out there. He knows he's not the quickest. He knows he can't hit the hardest. But what he can do is read the game better than those around him. And that was his calling card. It was so obvious. The way he would break on routes, the way he would come charging into a receiver. That stood out like a sore thumb. And you've got him on a ridiculously cheap contract to come in and make an impact like that. Again, has not been seen on that defense for a while. And it's one of the few Eagles acquisitions where I've gone, that guy's him. Him. And it's another Saints guy. I think the last time I had that same kind of conviction were 2 former Saints players. I mean, obviously Boston Scott was one of them. Came in, did a job, became a rotational player. And we saw what Cravon LeBlanc did from Detroit. That was the other player I was really high on as that low-end acquisition. I think Zach Bourne is that same kettle of fish. Someone that no one really paid attention to because he was just a special teams ace. You look at the way he plays the game and it just jumps off the screen. And when you partner that, got to be said again, Nakobe Dean stepped up. Big time step up for him. The whole defense played well, I think. Like, there was a lot less to be concerned about defensively. Offense, I think that the only concern, if I'm honest, were the frequent penalties, which you're going to get, new scheme, and the quarterback play, which was subpar. And for an offense that good, it's not acceptable. But defensively, Jalen Carter was a man amongst men out there today. I think on Friday. So I think Jordan Davis looked strong. The linebackers, when was the last time we had a game where we could 100% hand on heart say the linebackers are not an issue? When? We're talking 8-9 years where there hasn't been one dodgy play by a linebacker or something that's raised alarm bells and made you want to go to Sport Track and find the nearest free agent available for Howie to go and sign off the street. That was a very impressive linebacker play. And I did wonder if that would be the case because of that change. The move to a 3-4. If the linebackers suck, instead of investing heavily at the position and overplaying premium players, move the scheme. Have it a 3-4. Give yourself an extra defender in that middle of the field, whether it's Avonte Maddox, whether it's Quinion Mitchell, whether it's going to be another linebacker, whoever it is. Give yourself someone that can support the linebackers and take out just an extra margin of field. Even if it's just a curl and a hook watch, or it's someone manned up on a linebacker. Give them the flexibility. And they did that. And it took such a strain off the position. I think that they could play without fear. They weren't having to be overly responsible for 90 different things. The corners did their thing. The safeties did their thing. The linebackers did their thing. And because they're all executing their own roles, they're not having to look over the shoulder because Zach Cunningham's wandered off over there. They're not having to worry because James Bradbury's decided to have a nap in the middle of the field. They can just do their game properly, knowing that they've got a little bit of extra help on that right-hand side. And I think that paid huge, huge dividends. So the defense, I'm impressed with. Like, you can make the case that Jayden Reed had a very big day, and that wasn't ideal. Okay, Jayden Reed torched that Eagles defense. Fair enough to him. But when you look at the rest of the players that Packers team has, Jordan Love at quarterback is a potential star. Josh Jacobs a potential star. Christian Watson, potential star. Jayden Reed, potential star. Kraft at tight end is serviceable, can easily put up 50, 60 yards in a game if he wants to. They've got enough players there to do damage. And the Eagles held them run defense especially well outside of that one drive where the backup, I think it was Williamson, was it? Just decided to run everywhere and got like 40 yards in about 3 plays. Outside of that, I think that they were brilliant, that defense. I think Vic Fangio's defense is perfect for this group of players, which again is something we've not said in a while. And you go back to even the Jim Schwartz defenses. I think there were players in them that didn't fit the scheme. Someone like Rasul Douglas, very clearly talented, had everything there to be an NFL corner. Wrong scheme. Ended up now, obviously doing some bits at the weekend, played pretty solid. It happens. It happens. But you take someone like Reddick. I mean, there are a couple of The only downside I would say on defense was Bryce Huff, which, again, watchers of this show, long term, it's been the one reservation I've had for a while now is I don't think Bryce Huff is going to be that impact player year 1. It's going to be year 2, year 3, year 4, because he's not used to a big role. He made all of his pay dirt with the Jets, 10 sacks as a rotational edge rusher against beat-up offensive lines. You're now coming into a 3-4, so you lose a little bit of bulk up front, and you're expected to do the same. That's not what they're paying him for. Like, it's the projection on that. It's the fact that you've got a young pass rusher capable of that, rather than overpaying someone like, this isn't a shot at him, Josh Sweat, who's proven he's at this kind of stagnant level for about 2-3 years now, where he can hover around 7 to 8 sacks a year. Brandon Graham's obviously regressing. I say regressing, he had a good game, but like in terms of age, you've not got much tread left on the tire. Hassan Reddick has gone. You need someone to invest in to bring along. And I think that was a good acquisition, but it was going to take time. Week 1 was definitely a sign of that you're not going to get 10, 12 sacks from him for a while. And you compare it to someone like TJ Watt against the Falcons, who owned that game. Like, I know that's an extreme comparison to go from, a rotational guy with 10 sacks to probably the best defensive end in the league right now. But the way that TJ Watt dominated that game, and he had 2 huge plays called back as well. And he made the game-sealing play on top of about 18 sacks and 7 fumbles and 18 tackles for a loss or whatever it was. Like, he was just on a mission. That's what they're trying to get. That will take time. But outside of that, I really don't think there's much to criticize defensively. I think they were all very, very solid. I'll get to a few of your comments before I move on to Quinion Mitchell, because I think he deserves a special shout as well. I know I've missed a few of them. Jay Fizz, nice to see you, man. Says a lot of the younger players on D were balling. And what's been nice in this one-game sample was seeing how Vic Fangio saw the pressure, wasn't getting home a lot, and just let the linebackers fly and blitz, real Jim Johnson stuff. Yeah, there's just a lot less emphasis on it. Like, you've got a game wrecker in Jalen Carter who can wreak havoc and get into the backfield and make a ton of pressure on his own. Jordan Davis, who can move mountains. Nolan Smith, you want to see more from, but can get better. They're the guys that they don't need the help and the support. If you can take one of them off and just let them do their thing, the linebackers are going to feast. And again, they're just left without that extra responsibility. And as a result, they can feast that much more. But I think they were all defensively very, very strong. There wasn't a lot to dislike. Darius Slay, look, I'm not his biggest fan. I'm not, in terms of the way he's carried himself the last couple of years, predominantly on social media. Not a big fan. As a player on the field, it's very clear he still hasn't lost a step. I thought he was very strong. And he had the one game where it was like a forced fumble, and I'm amazed. I've not heard anything. I mean, I'm blocked, so I can't tell if he's spoken about it, but I could assume there would be a little bit of on him after that. And you know what? It's fully warranted. Fair play, because he tore that up, and it was a force to be reckoned with at the cornerback position. I'm curious to see what it looks like with Rodgers and maybe White. It's a really good comment. I'm not sure, honestly, if Devin White will get that starting role back after Nakobe Dean's play on Friday night. Because the whole point is Nakobe's the younger guy, 2 injury-trodden down years. He hasn't got long left on his contract, but the upside is there. You know what you're getting with Devin White, but if you can get starter-level play out of Nakobe Dean now, it's not like they've got $8 million tied to Devin White. He's not tied to some like Goliath deal where they've got a responsibility to play him. There's no reason why they can't just go, oh, well, look, White's been on top. We're going to ride the hot hand and let him do his thing. And if the wheels fall off, you've got a great insurance policy in a veteran who's been on some of the great Tampa Bay Buccaneers defenses, over the last couple of years. He might not be the linebacker he was, but you've got someone that understands the game, can go in a pinch and at least be serviceable. I would say if I'm a coach right now, having seen Nakobe Dean play in week 1, just let him run. Let him run. The confidence is there. And that's the other thing to bear in mind as well, is that it's a lot less X's and O's and a lot more confidence-based at this point for Nakobe Dean as someone that has had flashes, plenty of flashes that have then been just completely clouded by injury concerns. If he has a breakout in week 1, which he did, obviously that almost near interception was beautiful. If that had came down, I think the roof would have come off my home for sure. You see the upside there. And if he puts in an effort like that, and then they go back to Devin White for week 2 against Atlanta, and they go, look, good job, Nakobe. We're going to still ride with Devin. I don't know confidence-wise what that would do, and if it would just maybe unsettle it a bit. And he's a professional. He's from Georgia. He's got that strong background as a character. I don't think it would, but I would much rather boost that guy's confidence as high as you can. Give him that role and say, look, you were great. Run. We'll give you the keys. Run with it. And just see how far he goes, and if he can back it up, and if he does it again. And if not, you've got a veteran that came into this team likely, eyeing a backup role anyway. Like, we didn't know he was going to beat out Nakobe Dean without a shadow of doubt. I think many of us went into training camp expecting a real battle between the two, and all of a sudden it was just highly one-sided. So knowing he's on a 1-year deal, he's an older guy, he's going to be a lot more susceptible to accepting that, look, Nakobe's younger, he's better, we're going to just run with him and just embrace that a bit more. I wonder if Nakobe, after his struggles that he's had the last couple of years, would just maybe unsettle a bit, which isn't what you want with a young player, not when he's heating up. Like, you want to keep him hot and reinforce that. So I would 100% keep him out there for week 2 and beyond if he plays well. And if not, you've got Devin White there. We had to a few more of your comments. I thought Avonte was pretty much the only soft spot, and he's not a starter much anymore. Yeah, I mean, Avonte's a strange one because obviously they moved him to safety. And what's odd is that the last time he played safety full time was the worst year he had in Philadelphia. It was bad. And then they moved him back to nickel corner out of necessity. He balled out, earned a long-term extension, and that was it. And he just became this entrenched nickel corner for the remainder of his tenure in Philly before the release last year or this past offseason. So now he's gone back there again. And I know he was playing that kind of hybrid bit where it'd be up and down and all over the gaff. But yeah, I don't think safety or further away from the line of scrimmage is his strong spot. I don't think he's got the frame or the speed anymore to handle that. I think he needs to be... His strength to me has always been tackling and getting his hand in there to jam passes and stuff like that. He's a bit more physical than some of the other nickel corners in the league. And you put him at safety... I just don't think like that first step isn't as aggressive. Like, you can't put it this way. Like Reed Blankenship can click and close a lot better. Jordan Garncer Johnson can click and close a hell of a lot better. And Maddox is just a little bit slower and he can kind of overshoot sometimes, and that will cause problems. So I don't know. I think like when Sydney Brown gets back, that's the far more enticing thing. It's estimated it'll be the first few weeks of the season. So you're looking at week 4, week 5, maybe week 6. So we get Sydney Brown back in this defense. But looking at what he did in his rookie year and the way he would fit this system, I think that is a far more salivating thought to focus on, as opposed to, I think, Avonte Maddox is worrying a bit, or, not quite what he was, just because we've known that, I think, for a while. Like, that was why the Eagles let him go. He moved to safety, a position he's not a natural at by any means. Struggled again. So I'd be more enticed to see what someone like Sydney Brown can do when he gets back on the field this season than, again, sort of focus on Avonte Maddox there. I worry about the pass rush if we don't decimate Atlanta. From what I saw of them, they should get wrecked by the Eagles. They should. And to speak on Atlanta, look, I watched the game because I had money on it because I'm a degenerate. And look, I had the Saints. I teased the Saints to -6. I was like, the Saints are going to blow out Carolina. I should have done it to 16. But I did -6 Saints. I had the Seahawks -6. I had the Falcons -6. And it was a juicy bet. And it all went well until Kirk Cousins existed. And it's annoying because I think offensively, I'll tell you what, defensively, Atlanta were very good. Very, very good. I think they only allowed, was it 1 touchdown and the rest were field goals? I think Chris Boswell had 5 field goals in the game and like 1 extra point, 2 extra points. Well, either it was a lot. Like, there were next to no touchdowns. It was mostly field goals. Bijan is obviously a problem. They're using him a lot more as a receiving running back now. So that's something to be wary of, like out of the backfield. He was kind of marginalized. It was all field goals, his team was. So he was very marginalized in that game before. But Cousins, just worrying that again, it was sort of like Philadelphia, but a bit more dramatic. Like, I think that's the contextual thing, is if we look at that Eagles-Packers game, and I can be critical of Jalen Hurts, and I can be critical of a few of the decisions, and the bizarre reads he makes on RPOs, and the struggles that he makes just in terms of consistency and being skittish outside of the pocket. And you compare it to a quarterback where on a motion that the snap flew under his leg and hit the player in motion as opposed to the quarterback was a fumble. Cousins himself, I'm pretty sure, fumbled twice and turned it over once through the air. It's not great. And you've got an offense there with a dominant receiver in Drake London, a dominant tight end potentially in Kyle Pitts, a dominant running back in Bijan Robinson, and a defense that holds Pittsburgh with the likes of George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, Najee Harris, holds all of them to nothing but 6 field goals, and the offense can't do anything with a veteran court. That's concerning. The Eagles, by comparison, defense was very solid, and the offense scored. If it didn't matter that it didn't work through the air because they got the ball to Saquon Barkley enough where he could score 3 touchdowns. So it's much more of a what's the word? Like new levels, new devils, isn't it? Like, this isn't the same concern as an Atlanta team trying to get out of the basement from their division. This is an Eagles team that should be competing for a championship. So we do have elevated expectations of them. But yeah, when you compare them to Atlanta and what Kirk Cousins did, I think if that had happened on Friday night, there would have been a mutiny in Philadelphia. There would have been riots. It would have been a mess because that was absolutely horrid. If they'd have done what the Giants had done with Daniel Jones, where he was useless, another one that ruined a few of my bets on Sunday, might I add. Just a mess. Absolute mess. Fans were meeting the players as they were coming out of the facility, booing them, demanding Daniel Jones gives them $1 million. It was tremendous content for opposing fans, but for the fan base itself, I can assume it's jarring at the least. So it's very much new levels, new devils. But you're right. In terms of the Atlanta game coming up, the Eagles should walk all over it because the offense they've got is not there yet. You can see it. It's too raw. Like, there's too many errors. Kirk Cousins looks wobbly. He's not the same Kirk Cousins that he was a couple of years ago, I would say. Obviously, he's in prime time. That's always a red flag for Kirk Cousins anyway. But yeah, defensively, I thought Atlanta were very good. And that does worry me a bit for the Eagles just because if those offensive kinks can't get worked out, they are a team that can capitalize on it. I just don't think Atlanta's offense is anywhere near the level of Green Bay's to turn that into positive gains. So not worried too much. It should be an easy win. But Kirk Cousins in that first game was wobbly at best. And in terms of why I'm betting on the Giants, I don't know is the answer to that. I don't know what came over me. I assumed wrongfully that Kirk Cousins is gone. Sam Darnold's at quarterback. I'm pretty sure they were missing a couple of players defensively. Like the running back situation just didn't feel right. I was like, they're not the same team. It's been gutted, and Justin Jefferson's all they've got left. He'll put up numbers, and the Giants with Malik Neighbors. And in fairness, I can't remember was it the Jets Giants preseason game? I think I watched. I can't remember now. I think it was. Anyway, they were relentless through the air, and it was just deep shots 24/7. And I was like, when you've got Darius Slayton and when you've got Malik Neighbors, they're just going to be everywhere. Like they could be a real undercard bout here of someone that could just sneak up into a picture as underdogs and make a statement. And they didn't, and they were a mess, and it ruined my Sunday. So Daniel Jones and Kirk Cousins are both in my bad books today. The Panthers game was the easiest bet of my life, though. I should have just lumped everything on that as a single because that was a total mess. The fact that there is a game at a neutral site abroad between the Giants and the Panthers is, you're trying to promote the league, not deter people away. You're trying to bring in new fans, not make them sit there and go, what the fuck am I watching? Like, if you're a new fan watching the Giants versus the Panthers, and maybe you're brought along by someone that follows the game and they're all excited, and you're like, Dad, he's your dad now. Like, Dad, why have they thrown the ball backwards? I don't know, son. I don't know. I thought you said they're meant to throw forward. They are. Why is it on the floor again? I don't know. Why is he's tackled his own teammate? I don't know. It's going to be a bloodbath, and I can't wait for it. It might be the one game I really want to sit down and watch, like pay-per-view status. I would pay $20 to watch that game just for the absolute slog that it's going to be. I cannot wait. Panthers v Giants might start World War III. It could. But I'm all over it. I think it'll be a good fun. But we'll talk a bit about Jalen Hurts. I know we haven't done so yet. A lot of hang on. As a Falcons fan, how good is your pass rusher compared to TJ Watt? If I'm honest, Pixel. Firstly, thank you for hopping in. I didn't think we get many Falcons fans on this early in the week. It's only Monday, so I respect the dedication. Jalen Carter, as Wynn says, I would say can be that same level as menacing. I don't think anyone can take over a game the way TJ Watt can in the league at the minute. Like, there are very few pass rushes that are at that level now. There are a few coming up. You look at maybe an Adrian Hutchinson, could be. I mean, you can say Jalen Carter. There are a couple of other guys, but what is, when he's healthy, is just that unreachable status. And the way he decimated that game, I don't think many players will have a player like that. So the worry is that just Atlanta's offensive line was bad against the other three spots. Like, TJ Watt was a menace, don't get me wrong, but the other three spots are just as bad. And when you've got a combination of Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Bryce Huff against that Atlanta offensive line could be the one where he redeems himself and goes, oh no, by the way, I am here. Here's 4 sacks because he's explosive enough to do it. You look at Brandon Graham has been a player for a long time. He's been a thorn in Atlanta's side for a long time across a few years. Josh Sweat is an issue. Jalix Hunt, if you get some game time. There are linebackers there that are going to cause problems. Like, it's going to be rough sledding for the Falcons. And I know obviously, like, I'm a bit biased. I cover the team, but I watched that Atlanta game Sunday. As I said, I will give the defense all the flowers in the world. I thought the defense played lights out, and to hold Pittsburgh with, understandably, a last-minute change at quarterback, but to hold them to just 5 or 6 field goals is outstanding. It just sucks that the offense is wobbling that much, because I think the Eagles are a team offensively that will punish them much more for it. If the game played out the same in terms of turnovers, and the Eagles' offense was replaced by the Pittsburgh Steelers or vice versa, that would have been a Saints Panthers level scoreline, and I have no doubt about that. That's what worries me. I think defensively, Falcons are good. But if the offense continues to cough up the ball every other drive and turn it, like, that final drive was gut-wrenching, man. Like, they could have sealed that. I know they didn't have much time left, but they could have sealed it. Touchdown and 2 points. it's not good enough. So unfortunately, I think that's going to be the difference there. I say play Kenny Pickett next week and see if he can get more points than 18. Well, I might pick him up in fantasy because he's going to get dropped into the game when the Eagles are at 40 after a quarter and a half. What pissed me off the most was Zach Robinson refused to do anything else than pistol formation. Yeah, I think a lot of that is just on Bijan's upside and the way he wasn't used last year, I would say. Like, again, there was a lot more of him out of the backfield as a receiver this time. And it works to a point, but it's very easy for a strong pass rush to key in on, and it's something that the Eagles have as well. But we'll talk more about the Falcons on Wednesday and Friday. So if you're around for that, Pixel, I'd love to have you in the stream. I'm sure your input will be genuinely really appreciated as someone that knows the team much better than a lot of us Eagles fans will. I've just noticed Jeff Tezos. Like Jeff Bezos, the Eagles fan. Jeff Tezos. Love that. If that's his actual name, that is the best name that you've you might have gone through the first 20 years thinking, oh, I'm just Jeff Tezos. Then Jeff Bezos becomes a thing and really famous, and you're like, oh, my name's Jeff Tezos. And all the girls are like, oh, I see what you did there. And you go, no, Jeff Tezos. And banger. Love it. So I just wanted to point you out and give you your flowers there. But yeah, let's talk Jalen Hurts for a minute because I know I've rambled on this stream. Again, really quickly, if you guys could leave a like if you're enjoying it. If you could leave a comment, I know you're already in the chat, but if there's anyone watching this that hasn't said hello yet, that want to give your views on the game, drop them in the chat box. I'll try and get as many read out as I can. And hit the subscribe button. This show's live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 p.m. Est, and we'll have some fun. But Jalen Hurts was a man who wasn't having fun. That was... I don't know how to quantify that performance because there were flashes. There were really good flashes. Like the big touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, the way he was able to find Devontae Smith at times was exceptional. But there was just a level of skittishness and uncertainty in the pocket, which I get. You've got a new center, you've got a new right guard, you've got a new system. You're now calling protections for your center. It's going to take time. I get it. But when the ball is in your hands, I feel like none of that matters. Like, I hate to compare him to Anthony Richardson, but Anthony Richardson, I think, had far more pressure in his face throughout the whole game, right? Anthony Richardson was on his back foot most of that game, but he climbed the pocket and stayed in. And when he went out, he wasn't afraid to let one rip. And he was only a few inches off making another, 3 deep touchdowns. Jalen played very, very conservative by his approach. There have been a few comments about his rushing ability and whether that's disappeared. I don't know. I think it's been one game. I don't think we can say enough yet. But if he is becoming more of a pocket quarterback, which is what a lot of fans were clamoring for, they wanted to see him in the pocket with those receivers. I think they need to have him just feel comfortable. And the offense is doing all the things for him. They're scheming receivers short. You've got receivers running 3-yard curls to space open the guys deep. You've got levels concepts now. But for some reason, there's just a level of him trying to escape the pocket or running around inside it or not setting his feet and his head's constantly moving. I don't know how anyone can read anything doing that, to be honest. If you pick up a book, I haven't got one with me, but you're just there doing that, you're not going to get much information out of it. And I feel as though Hurts he couldn't lock into anything. There was no rhythm for him, which is bizarre because the offense looked plenty of rhythm. It was like Saquon, pass, Saquon, pass to Saquon. It's lovely. It was beautifully schemed up, and he just wasn't there. And in an ideal world, that's just because of a lack of preseason play. In an ideal world, that's because he's had 2 new offensive linemen and a new scheme. And in an ideal world, that gets fixed by week 2. In a not so ideal world, we saw this last year. And I had the exact same criticism at the exact same point last year. And I said then what I was saying now. If that does not change, if that does not fix by week 2, by week 3, by week 4, the wheels will fall off. And it cannot happen. The team is too good. The offense is too good. The scheme now works functionally. You've got motion. You've got guys being schemed underneath. You've got guys being schemed over the top. You've got open receivers all over the field, and you're failing to see them. There was one play in that game, I think it was the end of the first half. Jahan Dotson was wide open after breaking away on an improvised play to get in for a touchdown. Didn't happen. Hurts ended up taking the sack or lobbing it away. I can't remember which. There is not enough calmness for him, which is bizarre when his whole ethos, his whole mentality is this stone cold assassin, this give nothing but analogies. I'm within myself. I trust God. I trust myself. I'm going to be fine. On the field, didn't trust anything. And that is worrying. So hopefully, as we said, it is one of two outcomes. That gets fixed by week 2. And for week 1, you get the benefit of the doubt. You had 2 new linemen. You had a new offensive scheme. You were on the road in a neutral site and you had no preseason snaps. You get a let off. You get 1 let off. Week 2 against Atlanta, Monday night, back on extended bye to fix things. You cannot have those same issues because it's exactly the same as it was last year. And we spent 6 weeks, 7 weeks saying how this is unsustainable. How you just keep doubling down at blackjack. Eventually, you're going to go bust. And I think that started to show a little bit there with Hurts in week 1. And again, there were flashes of that elite quarterback that we've all come to know and love, and someone that can make magic happen and that can make these beautiful throws to his receivers and see things that other people don't and maneuver safeties with his eyes. And then one play later, it all gets undone. So I'd really hope this all gets fixed out. And I think that's kind of where I am on him at this stage. He's predicting runnably. He's running predictably. I said there. His running is predictably go right. He often doesn't end up the middle or to the left often. Yeah, that's a fair point. I think that's probably by design because it's comfort for him. But some extra, creativity in that field. One left run might catch a defense completely off guard. I remember how early in OTAs Jalen played similar to how he played last night. Late on throws, indecisive, force it to AJ. It's a lack of snaps against other defenses besides his. That's, again, totally valid. Totally valid. And I'd like to assume it's a one-time thing. Because we all know that, and this is a frustrating thing. It's not like, and it's not a shot at Carson Wentz. The difference between the two is that Carson Wentz in 2017 was a godlike level. Then he got injured. He came back early and was never the same player. And there was that first game against the Colts. I think it was week 3 that season. He was trying to shift his body to not put weight on that front foot because of the rehabbed ACL. So everything was just off his back and a bit off. And then came this bozo ball decision to try and make up for it. And it just derailed his career alongside the myriad of 87,000 other things that contributed to his downfall. But that, for me, was the catalyst. The difference with Hurts is that there has been no reason. There's no injury setback. We know the player he is. It's not like Josh Allen either. Josh Allen can either have the game of a lifetime or a game like Carson Wentz. You flip a coin every single time Josh Allen takes the field. He is either the best quarterback in the league or he's 27th in the league. There is no in between. Jalen Hurts is either prime Jalen Hurts, which is an MVP level quarterback, or he will have flashes of prime Jalen Hurts with flashes of Josh Allen, with flashes of someone that's a rookie, with flashes of someone that's a 35-year-old veteran. There is just this weird mix that comes in. And I hope that, again, it's a one-time thing. The excuses, I think, are fair for week 1. As we say, on the road, neutral site, different country, 2 new linemen, a new offensive scheme, and a partridge and a pear tree. But they've got to get coached out. This has to get sorted. Otherwise, I think we're destined for another year of frustration. Even if it goes well, even if they're 7-1 and every win is like this, I will still sit here making the same point. Because when push comes to shove and December is upon us and you've got a playoff game in the cold, snowy trenches of wherever, you've got to bank on your quarterback. And if you can't, it's going to be an issue. So I hopefully get this. I hope I'm not trying to be too dramatic because that's not what I want to be. I'm not like a negative Nancy. I like to try and speak positive on things, but I've also got to call a spade. And Jalen Hurts just was not good enough on Friday night. I wonder if he's being coached to be less aggressive as a runner. I think that's interesting. There were times last year where I think we all kind of assumed the same, where I think 2022, he was rushing an awful lot and he had to kind of it was almost like the same Carson Wentz discussion of, is he going to get taught to slide? Is he going to get taught to not do that? And Wentz wouldn't do it during his final seasons in Philly. And I think Jalen Hurts would is the difference. So it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But I know we've only got a few minutes left. So the one player I do want to talk about before we end the stream as just an overall winner for me in that game was Quinyon Mitchell. I had no idea until the game started that Isaiah Rodgers had been benched. Or not been benched, but wasn't able to play. And I covered the team. So that was fun. So I see Quinyon Mitchell out there on his own on an island. And he's been lobbed out there because Isaiah Rodgers can't start. Again, neutral site on the road. You're a rookie. It's your first game. And you're coming up against the likes of a proven Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. It's not easy. He was incredible, I think, for a lot of that game. Wasn't perfect. There were some plays he left out there and a couple of minor mistakes. But in the few highlights that came out of that, and the fact that he had the aura and the confidence to walk up after a big play to a receiver and start inviting the smoke. Like, he wanted the confrontation. The fire was in him. Like, he felt himself in that situation. The confidence was through the roof. He knew what he had about him. And I think that was just absolutely brilliant. I've not seen a rookie cornerback exude that level of certainty in his own play in quite some time. And that was really exciting. Like, it's what you want in a future CB1. The Eagles are now in a weird position where they've got to choose, well, you know, do you go Quinyon outside or do you put Isaiah Rodgers back out there and move Quinyon to the slot where Mitchell was very good outside? Do you try Rodgers in the slot instead, just not to rock the boat on that outside position at the Y or whatever? It's interesting. But really, you want to get Quinyon as many snaps as humanly possible because the upside on him is brilliant. Sorry to anyone that has CMC and any parlays have been ruled out for tonight. Is he? Oh, bollocks. I should have bet the over. Under. I know what I meant. But that's fine. That's going to be, yeah, well, Timor, what a lovely day this is for you after years of defending Brock Purdy, saying that he's brilliant and one of the best quarterbacks in football. Let's see what he can do without his crutch there, made of titanium that will never break and gets him out of every conceivable hole he finds himself in. Let's see what he can do with Brandon Ayuk potentially on a pitch count, where his targets are going to be Juwan Johnson one side and Deebo Samuel the other, who only runs motion and deep. Let's have a look. Let's see what Brock Purdy's got in the locker, shall we, against the New York Jets? Let's see what we can cook up here. Trent Williams has missed most of the season, sat around in a mard. So, you know, that'll be fun. They're losing tonight. I think they're losing tonight, if I'm honest. I will take the Jets. Look, this is the same guy that bet the Giants, but I think there's even a brief moment. I think the Jets could do it. I meant Jennings. That's the one. My apologies. I know I was close enough. Johnson's the other one. Jordan Mason with 125 yards anyway. I don't care. Yeah, no, that was it. Juwan Johnson was the one I almost bet to. I had another. There was a theme here. I had a bet on for anytime touchdown scorers, and I had Bijan Robinson. I had Zach Moss. I had Jonathan Taylor. There was one more. I can't remember. Mike Evans, I think, on another one, and Chris Olave. And I looked at Juwan Johnson, and I thought he only scored like 2 touchdowns last year. And I thought, well, who's to say? Like 10-1, maybe he's worth a shot. He wasn't. I had Olave. Oh, sorry, he was. He got the touchdown. I had Olave, and that was the end of that, really. So I had a few of those bets in. Alas, wasn't a good day at the office. But yeah, Jets v Niners tonight will be an interesting affair. The main thing we're focusing now, though, is that the Eagles 1-0. All that matters, all the rises, the fallers, the winners, the losers, say what you want about Jalen Hurts at this stage. The Eagles are 1-0 against the Packers. I look forward to Monday night against the Falcons. That's all you can ask for. Really, it's week 1. It's easy to slip up in week 1. I think we've seen that. I mean, if the Browns were half competent, they'd have beaten the Cowboys, I think. Like, it doesn't help when you've got Deshaun Watson throwing for 7 yards and being a nuisance. They were beatable. Look at the Bengals, stumbled. Look at the Dolphins. The Dolphins almost lost. Like, that should have been a Jags win by any stretch of the imagination. I'm stunned they won that game, in fairness. But Chiefs and Ravens was an intriguing affair, to say the least. And you can go across the board and look at most teams. The Lions and the Rams took overtime last night. The Lions, the darlings of the NFC, a team that everyone is predicting to be this big juggernaut now with Dan Campbell, barely scraped past the Rams in overtime. The Eagles got the job done against another NFC championship contender. Wasn't pretty, didn't have to be. It doesn't matter. Do you know what? I'll tell you what, I'll give you a good analogy, okay? To close out the stream. I was playing a medal in golf once. So a medal, for those that don't know, is stroke play. So every stroke counts. So instead of, a point system, which is what most amateur or local golf clubs do to keep things easier, essentially, and retain your sanity levels, you can have a 17 on a par 4. You have to finish it. You can have a 26 on a par 3. You have to finish it. And I was in a medal. And I was on for a very, very good score. And I came down to the 18th, and there's a massive lake in front of a green, and my tee shot's right in front of it on a par 4, about 130 yards off a down slope into the thing. And I thought about, for my second shot, knocking the ball down to literally a yard in front of me so it was flat so I could hit it over the water. And I didn't, because I didn't want to look like an idiot. I didn't want to look stupid. And I then proceeded to put that ball in the lake, the second ball in the lake, and the third ball in the lake. And then someone that I was playing with, who just watched all of that happen, said to me, "No one can see how you played the hole on the scorecard. It doesn't matter." Well, she told me that before. And that's kind of where we're at with the Eagles. It doesn't matter. No one, if they go 14-0, no one's going to look back at week 1 and be, well, Jalen Hurts wasn't very good in week 1, was he? Well, they left some meat on the bone, though. I don't know. Wasn't brilliant. So all you have to take from this, the Eagles are winning. They're 1-0. Perfect start. They've got a favorable matchup to fix up in Atlanta. And if they can do that, then the sky's the limit. And on that note, that's where we're going to end it for today. So, guys, thank you very much for hanging out and breaking down this game. A huge shout as well, I think, just to everyone at PSN in general. I think our content has been, again, I know I'm biased, but I would say it's the strongest it's ever been. We debuted a new show today, Open Gym Network with AB. I hope some of you guys tuned into it. I know that was a lot of fun. AB's been with PSN for a while as a Sixers writer, has done his own thing, and wanted to bring that to PSN. So we're here to give him that platform because he's worked his ass off, and he really just deserves that spotlight to shine. Really, I think he's a brilliant creator and can do some fantastic things. So we had another Eagles recap today. We have one on Saturday morning with Flipping the Birds. You've got Flipping the Birds again tomorrow. You've got me again on Wednesday. Your Eagles up to the tits, and you've got written content everywhere. So plenty of stuff coming. And just really quickly as well, totally separate note. Today is officially the first year. I've been doing this 9 years. We're fully credentialed with the Philadelphia Flyers this season, which is huge. It's the first year we've ever had that. Normally it was there's different tiers of credentialing essentially. And this is our first one where we are full-time credentialed media members with the team, the same as the TV networks and stuff and the national papers. So yeah, that's really cool. And the Sixers, we got kind of a similar notification with as well, where we're credentialed with for the season. So yeah, all things going good at PSN. We should have a lot of content coming your way over the next few months as a result. Hopefully some exclusives. I can't promise anything, but I can say with some degree of certainty that we will get some Flyers players on exclusive shows like this to hang out with. So that, all being well, will be good. So there's a lot we've got cooking up, so stay locked in. Guys, I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I know you must have been a little bit fatigued with all the content that you've had over the last few days, but it means a lot that you continue to hang out in these streams after a week 1 win, to do the watch along, to watch Flipping the Birds, to watch AB, to watch... there's so much happening. I appreciate you all just chatting Eagles on this Monday evening. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your night. Enjoy the Jets and the Giants. I hope the Jets win to annoy Timor. I will see you on Wednesday. Take care. Go Birds. I'll see you soon.